Well, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready if you are then.
Let's do it, man.
Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a Chosen's Corner sit-down conversation with Sham from Skeleton Hand, who is a developer that is producing a new mobile game for the gacha industry called Incarnate that is going to be launching into its alpha stage pretty soon here. So I'm excited for this. It is an opportunity to talk to someone behind the scenes in producing a game from start to finish. I'm going to ask them all sorts of different questions about how the budget works and how much it costs to do this from start to finish. Talk about some of their concerns, some of the things they think are going well, and really do a deep dive into what it's like to be in that world from that side of things. You know, we usually experience things from the gamer's perspective. It's going to be fun to get the developer's perspective and really talk about a project going on right now from start to launch and really do a full deep dive into what all that is like. So let's get into it. Alrighty, and now I am joined by I always call you Sham. What's your like name and gamer tag? What do you go by usually?
Well, people pretty much call me Sham in every part of my life, so Sham is fine. People call me Shamrai on the server. That's been my my since I was 14 type of deal.
Nice.
But yeah, you can call me Sham. I'm Sham.
Okay, cool. Well then, just to get us kick-started here, tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of your history and kind of what led you up to this point, maybe where you're from, kind of the basics before we dive in here.
Uh, yeah, so like I said, I'm Sham. I'm from Chicago. Been here for quite a while. I started the company. I started Skeleton Hand probably about 6 years ago. The original idea was that I wanted to make a board game that was a cross between like Magic the Gathering and Final Fantasy Tactics. So that was actually literally the general pitch, right? I wanted and I had a lot of the ideas that we're using now with the 3-part system. I wanted to 3D print the models, which actually I still think would be pretty cool. Just to print everything out and because they're designed like that actually. By the way, when we design the models, the 3 parts can kind of like link together, and we have like a crossbar so that it actually could be physically printed.
Oh, cool.
So so someday we probably will actually print them out. Yeah. So anyway, 6 years. 6 years. That was the original concept, and we started working on the game. I got together with a couple of my friends who were developers and worked for some bigger companies, and we just started making the game, and we got to a point where we had like a lot of interest from publishers actually for this concept, but they basically all said like, hey, we need you guys to get a little bit further along before we're willing to do like any investment and really start doing like some like marketing stuff with you and connecting really. And so we were like, okay, well, we need a little bit more investment capital basically to make that happen. So I was like, all right, everyone, go do your thing for a little bit. I'll be back. I'll go get some investment, get some people interested. And so in the meantime, we actually made a board game. Oddly enough, because I was like, well, I had this concept for. I guess I'll bust it out. For Raid Boss, um, and I had this concept for it. I was just like one day, and just started making it, and our artist Dane was like, "Dude, that's awesome. Let's just make it. We have all this. We can do this." So we did, and then at that point, I guess maybe a year ago, I'd say it's about a year ago, I kind of had this idea to pivot the direction of the game, like kind of a big pivot, and so I thought about it for I don't know, a month or two. And then I pitched everybody on it. I'm like, hey guys, I think this works way better as like a gacha game, like a hero collector. I think our model really fits well. I like here's this idea for how we're gonna do it, how it can, basically for the incarnate that you may or may not have heard of at this point. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so at that point we had the investment, we had some interest, we connected with some some of the streamers. Hades actually is in, and as is Ash. Actually, those guys are psyched, and yeah. So that's kind of where we're at now. And so at this point we were convinced to do a Kickstarter because people wanted to get in on the alpha, and wanted to help out with some of the investment, and that went super well. We were super psyched about that. We've got this big community. So fast forward to today, hanging out with Chosen, my man.
Hey, there you go. And hey, you're an easy interview. I just say, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, and you go for 5 minutes. So hey, that's great. I'm kidding. That's awesome. No, so yeah, you covered all the kind of the basics. So it was started out as a board game concept, and then you decided to transition into the mobile market, but you're also going to have a PC client, right?
Yes,
And you're about to launch the alpha.
the alpha. Yeah, so actually the alpha is actually going to start as a PC Mac client. So people will get to try it out on their PC immediately. It's launching the 27th. If everything goes well, and as far as I can see it right now, we are on track. We're going to do it. So launching on the 27th, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to be where we're at. I'm pretty happy with where we're at with the development. So yeah.
Cool. Then maybe if it's somebody's first time hearing about Incarnate, like the mobile iteration of it that's going to be in alpha, what is kind of like the type of, you give us like a couple minutes of rundown of what exactly Incarnate is as a mobile game.
So Incarnate is basically like a tactical. I like to call it a tactical strategy game. So again, thinking of like Final Fantasy Tactics or XCOM games like that, um, with a team of characters that you collect in the same way that you would collect from Raid, right? So you can you we have so our like shard system. We have these things called echoes, and the major difference in our character structure is that instead of being like, okay, well, hey, I pulled a shard, I pulled an arbiter, I pulled a whatever, I pulled a character. It's more like, hey, I pulled this combination of parts, right? It's still a character, but because of the way that we've made the character, the like designed the way the game works, you have like a mind, a body, and a soul, and those things can mix. So the analogy I give is like, well, you could have a cold heart, A3 mixed with an Arbiter A2 mixed with a, I don't know, so Skull Crown's A1, and you can mix that character, and then equip, and then we have our version of essentially equipment. So yeah, and then so it's played on like a 3D board, and you can raise and lower the spaces. Your positioning really matters. So it's kind of like it's got a lot of elements. I guess one of the things that people are always like, wow, that has a lot of different things. And what we've worked really hard to do is try to make it feel like it all is cohesive. It all comes together. Like you build your character, but then once you're out on the battlefield, it's relatively simple. You can move, you can do one ability per turn, and then it's the next person's turn. Whoever's in the next person in the speed order. So like all the complexity happens at the beginning, and then when you're in the battle, you've got lots of strategic, or you've got tactical things that to think about, but you're not like rethinking like, oh, well, how am I going to build this? It's done. Your character's already built.
Mm-hmm. Is there going to be lots of like grinding gear or grinding potion? Like, is there a grinding PvE aspect to it, or is it mainly around like PvP? How's that balance kind of strike?
Yeah, 100%. There's plenty of grinding to be had. We'll put it that way. You're you're going to be collecting a bunch of things. So you'll be collecting obviously the parts that we talked about. So you won't just collect a fully formed guy and hope to get one of the 8,000 combinations that we have. You'll get like the parts and you can mix them, you can forge them. You'll also be collecting Eternals, which are like the memories of the base characters. The best way to think of it. There's a we have a big story that if you're into that you can get into it. But so there'll be a campaign that you can play through and understand who these characters are, and then so you'll be collecting that gear. And then we actually have this system that I'm pretty psyched about. So those memories, they augment your character in one way or another. So they can either make it, they'll give you like a passive. So something like every time I move, I drop a mine, for example. At the end of my move, or at the beginning of my move, I drop a mine, for example. I mean, that's not actually one, but it could be.
Mm.
And then on basically like they'll also give you stats. So and then you can customize those stats. So think of it as like the runes you can like give them different runes. So you can not only have an Eternal that does something very specific, but you could have like 3 copies of it, and each of them could have a different stat array that you want. Like maybe I really want speed on this one. I really want in the same way that it's just like the gear kind of like in Raid. But imagine if the gear could have like a either a complex passive, and those will cost a lot of points, and so you won't be able to do a lot of those, or a very simple passive that's just like, your AoEs go a little bit further or something. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay. Cool. And I want we talked a little bit on my live stream, and I wanted you to explain your concept of like I think you were calling it mercenaries, because I thought that was a really cool way to do like sharing and like clan stuff within a like a mobile game.
Yeah, I'm as I was before. I'm super hyped about the mercenary system. So, first thing, the mercenary system will not be in the alpha. So this is just something that I want to make sure that people aren't like, oh, this is what I should expect immediately. And we're pretty clear in the Discord, but I'm saying it here. The mercenary system will be like this. You will be able to set up a mercenary for hire. So like, let's say you were interested in using, again, I'm just gonna use the raid analogy because it's an easy one to make for a game when you haven't played this game. Imagine you just, I can't quite get through what is it, Spider 14 or something, because I don't have Cold Heart or whatever. I could be like, hey, Chosen, can I use your Cold Heart? And so you could be like, yeah, but it's going to cost you X number of gems, right? Or something like that. So the person could use that. So if you have like a baller account and you really want to show off, and you want to make passive, essentially like gems or different currencies, you can do that. If you really need help progressing, you're free to play, and you want to save up to finish, to get past some roadblock, you can do that. And then if you're just like, you want to whale out and you just want to get through the game super fast, you can do that, right? It gives you the options to do that.
Can let's say in your example, renting a Cold Heart, can that champion be used at the same time, or is it now locked on the person that lent it out, basically?
Right. So this mercenary will be locked, right? That character is essentially like, I'm saying this character is on higher.
Yeah. Okay.
It can't be used. Yeah. So
Okay.
so there is kind of like that detraction. But if you're off and you're not doing something that uses Cold Heart, then you just go like, yeah, that's fine. People are really interested in doing this part of the game right now. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's Doom, our version of Doom Tower, and they want to rent out Armiger with a destroy set, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just be like, actually, I'm just gonna rent it real quick, get through this part of the content, and then obviously, it can't be the same as the way that they've set it up, because they don't have that system, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
we'll balance around that, but yeah, I'm really psyched about that. I think it's a good way to solve what can happen, or some of the problems with a game becoming not free to play friendly, but also have something for people that are really interested in investing and getting into the game.
Mm-hmm. And how will trading? What's your thoughts right now on trading? Like trading artifacts or trading champions or trading shards. Like, is there any sort of player-to-player economy, and what's your thoughts right now in terms of handling that?
So we had a pretty awesome discussion actually just recently on our Discord. Again, one of the things that we're excited about, and actually makes this process even more fun for me, is that we are being
Mm-hmm.
we're putting it out there. We're putting it all out there. So if we're telling people exactly the way we want to have the game, and we're even saying like, hey, we want your input. Like, what do you guys think, right? And so we had a pretty cool discussion that went on for, I don't even know, forever in our Discord around this. And the best idea I think that came out of it, the one that I'm really liking so far, is this idea of like an auction house. And the auction house, don't think of like World of Warcraft auction house, right? It would be like a somewhat randomized auction house where you get essentially tickets to buy to open up and see some sorting of or some sampling of what people have put up for auction. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's hard to quickly explain because again, it was like pages, and we haven't fully gone through this whole thing.
Yeah.
But so like you could say, all right, I want to auction off this part. It's got these Eternals equipped in it, so it's it's very valuable for whatever. And then you can, if you want to bid on that piece, you can bid, but it will 100%, no matter what, win or lose, cost you some cost, right? So you can't, so that takes away botting. I mean, it doesn't take it away fully, but
like an application fee, like an application fee or something.
An application fee, exactly.
Yeah.
So it deters, but nothing's going to take away, but it deters botting, right? And then you'll only have a certain number of trades you can do because you're restricted by this thing. So again, you're not going to have this like it's going to be a big deal if you want to make that trade, which I like. I think it's better than it's just like, not even the stock market. It's just like, well, I guess it's the way that the stock market works now with AI. It's just like trade.
All the day traders doing thousands and thousands of trades. Yeah.
Right.
With these
it's
these algorithms.
Old school trading, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're leading. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool approach. I know the last time we had talked, I hate to rehash everything, but I know there's probably some people watching that weren't on stream, so we just have to rehash some discussions. But I know we were talking about kind of like limiting it, because I know what crippled Diablo 3's economy was you get these botting operations of 1,000 PCs, and they just flood the market with all these good items. And now all of a sudden it saturates it to the point where good items are worthless and there's no point to play the game because for $3 you can kit out a perfect champion and you're because the market is so flooded with all these botted items. So I know we were talking about maybe if you limit it where these bot accounts can't sell 1,000 items a day, you limit their transactions, maybe there's less incentive to have these massive botting operations. And it sounds like you were kind of going that route with like the guaranteed cost, like win or lose, there's going to be a cost of like participating in this option. And I think that's a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. And then I guess something else I also forgot is I think we're going to have a minimum level before you can start even trading as well. So you can't just start an account, get something that, oh, great, I got a legendary. Let me send it off. And then try to sell it. You got to, okay, well, if you want to do that, you can, but you got to get to level, I don't know what our number was, like 40 or something. You got to get relatively high to actually be able to even sell that one piece. And even if you do, if you want to spend or the botter or this person wants to spend all that time doing it, like, well, okay, I think that's fair. Go for it.
What's your main concern? Like what keeps you up at night as from a developer standpoint when you're heading into alpha?
Heading into alpha. I would say that the biggest thing right now is jamming in all the features and then making sure that they're actually finished enough that like people seem to be okay with this concept of like hashtag break it. We've had this concept like again in Discord, which I'm fine. Good. I want you to send me those bug reports. Tell me what's wrong with it. But there's a limit. There's a limit to that, right? So I want to make sure that we've got this feature lock. We know what we're going to put in the game, but I want to make sure that we get there, and that when we do, we don't have too many features and then too many things for people like to break. I think we've struck that balance, but that's development. Development is development. So you guys will see. Like that's what this whole journey has been about, and why we've been kind of sharing it with people through Hell Hades doing his Hell Hades Incarnate YouTube and through Kickstarter. Like, I thought it would be cool for people to see like what it's like. Like this is what it's like, when I'm not backed by Activision or I don't have a couple $1 million just sitting in my pocket and 50 developers working for me. Like it's me and I mean it's me and a bunch of very driven people, and now we've brought on some more, but it's still tough, man. It's still tough.
For sure. And that kind of leads me into something that I know I'm curious about is, and I've never really had a chance to talk to a developer about it. What is like, I don't know if it costs 1 million or 100 million. Like what does it take to get a game from concept to launching? Like, what I know you're not going to tell exactly what your situation is, but like, what does a developer expect to like develop a game?
So I would say that that question you have to like I have to give you a little bit of context. So if depending on the type of game you're trying to build, right? The cost is going to be very, very varied,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
different, right? So if you're looking at a game that is 2D, it's a side scroller, and there's no multiplayer, not much, right? Pretty easy to do. There's a lot of tools out there, Unity, Unreal. You can probably do it on your own. There's a lot of free stuff. So if you're just looking for like, hey, I just want to make a fun game, easy peasy. Now, if you're talking about, the scale that we're talking about, where you need a back end, you need people to manage that back end, you need artists, we'll need musicians, you'll need designers, you'll need to balance it, you'll need developers to actually code it. This is a 3D game, so that obviously adds. So you're going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. That would be the best way. And it could easily, of course, go way further than that. But the scale that we're at right now is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Um, and and yeah, and basically beyond that, like every level of complexity you add, the more people you expect that you're going to have, the more it's going to cost. Um, the more server management that you're going to have. Even like if you think there's going to be a ton of traffic and it's not just um, very small interactions, that can really add a lot of cost too, especially if you're not making money yet. Like if you're making money, then cost becomes, well, whatever. You're just paying off your cost with that. But
Yep.
before then, like I said, like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay. So a game like Raid is like $10 million to
Tens
develop.
tens of millions. Well. I mean, the initial concept that they did, I think, way back was pretty simple. Was much simpler than where it is now. So maybe a couple $1 million,
Oh,
right?
okay.
To for where they're very beginning. Once you started having, because as soon as you expand internationally, that becomes very expensive. You need localization, you need meaning translations, um, which is not as simple as it might seem.
Yeah.
You need localization. You need different marketing. I mean, I know Raid spends some good stuff on marketing, and it's working. But so you need that. But from the perspective of like building that game, um, a big part of the cost is their models. Probably their models are intricate and very nice. The animations aren't very complex, but they spend a lot of time and they do a good job on their visuals, which is why I think they've held, they're up there. It's a great game.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would if I was gonna guess, I would say their initial one cost a couple million, like $5 million, maybe something like that.
To go from concept to launch. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of like you're like, oh, but it's just guys that run across, and then there's a guy and he does an animation and it's like, no, there's so much balancing and analytics and psychological studies for yeah, all kinds of stuff. So it's a big company. It's a huge company now, right? They're owned by another company, parent company, right?
Aristocrat, I think.
Aristocrat.
Aristocrat is
Yeah.
kind of like the umbrella over Plarium and all sorts of, because Aristocrat is Australian based, I believe, and then Raid is mainly in Ukraine right now in terms of like most of their staff for Raid. And how many
Yeah.
people are on your staff there for developing Incarnate?
So we have 11 people working total. Yeah. So we have and lots of bunch of people wear a bunch of different hats. Myself included, obviously. I get to do a lot of the day to day, but so yeah, I mean, I think we have like what I would consider 5 developers working with us right now, and then I would count myself as like a third or a fourth of a developer, something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I do some really. I mean, I know how to, but they're all much more talented than I am. Um, and then yeah, we have several artists, 2D, 3D artists. We have some people that have reached out to us for our some sound design, which I'm very interested in. Yeah, like the early iterations of it are we're not even bothering with some of the sound stuff because it doesn't make sense at this point. And we want to have like a nice, like you don't want to invest in like okay music. You want to invest in good music that people are going to really jam to, or just turn off, which is what I do. What I do a lot of times in some of these games, right?
Yeah.
It's on your phone.
You just leave sound effects on, but turn music off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what a lot. So it kind of reminds me of like a Path of Exile type story, some guys that liked gaming, and you get a team of like 10 to 12 people, and just start going on a passion project. Kind of reminds me of Path of Exile.
I mean, if we were even like a fraction of the success, I would be so psyched because GGG, such a great company. I love the way that they do all their stuff, and whenever I play that game, I mean, I was talking it up when I was on stream with you. I love that game. I think, I mean, they do some crazy stuff that doesn't work, but then they're like, oh, guys, that didn't work. Let's try something different. Like, and that's what a cool way to engage your community. What a good way to be like, to be really involved and like and let them share in the experience of that, right? I don't know how much they get to do the direct reach out at this point because they're so big,
Mm-hmm.
or they've gotten so much bigger. But yeah, I mean, like it's just us. We're gamers. We're just making a game that we want to play, and we think that other people would be into.
Cool. Nice. And like, when is the game gonna be like a launching globally, officially, App Store, Google Play, like full release? I know you can't give me a day, but like, what's the estimate? What are you thinking right now?
So we're estimating our closed beta will be in March. So 2021, obviously,
Yep.
and then hopefully there won't be too many bugs we need to squash. And so I'm hoping that we would do kind of like our then we do what's called the soft launch, and that would be beta. Like that would be, people still like call it a beta. You see this all the time in bigger games, but soft launch basically means like a regional trial before you go kind of a global launch. So that'd be the month after, right? Again, assuming everything went well. If we were like, oh crap, this and this system isn't just, needs to be upgraded before we can even consider having 10,000, 100,000 players or whatever. And then beyond that, I think I can't really even predict that right after that one. You have to kind of see how things go, and then we have to work out relationships with localization teams, and we have not been specifically designing around localization yet, but when we're going from the process or after alpha, we will be, and then I'll know better. Then I'll know, oh, okay, well, we designed this well for localization. Like card text. Card text is such a big one, right? If in German everything is 50% longer, right? Well, that's relatively simple if you do it right. But if you don't do it right, then you're gonna get some weird stuff, right? So I guess we have kind of we've kept that in mind, kind of in the back of our mind. So I don't predict we're gonna run into any problems from there, but I don't want to like lock us into anything that is not that is not realistic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain like risk analysis threshold? Like if the game hasn't hit a certain amount of players by a certain time, you'd have to like pull the plug and save your finances, or are you just gonna ride it out for 5 years no matter what? Like, are these thoughts that have to go on in your head in terms of like making sure you're managing like all your cost and the benefit of if the game's gonna be successful and all that?
Yep. So there's tons of metrics on what churn and player retention, 10-day, 30-day, all that kind of stuff. You have to pay attention to those things, right? Not because, hey, these metrics are telling us if we're going to make money or not. I mean, that's obviously important. We need to make money so that we can actually keep producing the game. But it's more important because it's telling you players don't like your game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like your game, or really like your game, or they don't like your game after some amount of time because there's not enough content or whatever. I mean, it tells you a lot. So to answer your question, I'm a pretty stubborn guy. um, that does not mean that I'm just going to keep bashing my head against the wall with the same thing. But it does mean that if something isn't working, my go-to would be find a way to solve it. And that, like I mean, the example would be that the pivot, right? We didn't necessarily have to make that pivot. I think we could have gone with the original concept, but in the end, I thought it was better for the game, and so that's what we ended up. Like I think there's a phrase that I think a lot of people will have the "I can't afford that" mentality, right? And my mentality has always been, let me find a way to afford that. Let me find a way to make this happen. If I don't feel like I can do something, but I really think it's important for the game or for whatever, for the vision of it, then I'll just figure out a way to do it. Like that's just me. I don't know. That's just my style. So, yeah, I guess it'll be pretty obvious to us. Like if we're losing money, like if we can't sustain it, then that's like the obvious, like, okay, well, we need to fix something absolutely now. But if we're just like floating and we're not really like not really catching on, then like let's say we don't feel like we can fix it, then we'll bring someone in who can help us understand, okay, well, what's going on, like help us understand these numbers so that we can make it better, and we'll ask the community, hey guys, what's the issue? Is are things too expensive? Do you feel like the progression's too easy? It's too hard? It's whatever. We're out there, so we're just. I think that we're going to have enough information to make those decisions relatively easily, without having too much like consternation, too much of a question whether or not a change needs to be done.
Okay.
Made.
Cool. All right. Is there anything that you want to make sure we touch on or talk about before we wrap up? Is there anything you want to make sure we discuss or get out there to people?
I mean, honestly, like I'm just hyped that we're able to get this out here, get like people knowing that we're making this game. A bunch of people have kind of come in and asked if they can get an alpha key. So the alpha keys are actually closed, just so everyone knows. Alpha keys are all closed. You can still get a beta key, but there's no way to like buy it right now. We don't have any like, hey, you purchased a beta key. Alpha key holders or whatever will have extra keys after the alpha to give out to people. So you can kind of ask them, and then we'll have a bunch of different ways through. So we're connected to Hades in the sense that he's got this channel he's running for us, and doing a really good job of just kind of like showing the process, because I don't have the bandwidth / the knowledge to actually make to like do these videos. So I guess if this is something that interests you, go check out that channel. I'd love, it's Hell Hades Incarnate. It's, if you go to Hades, you can click
I can link it down below in a pinned comment. Yeah, no problem.
So yeah, check that out. I mean, yeah, and I guess you could throw the Discord on there. Again, if you're interested in it, hop in the Discord, come say hi. It's going to be fun after the holidays once we launch, and a lot of the discussion will be, I think, really cool if you're into the design of these games. But beyond that, I just wanted to come say hi, just hang out and chat with my man.
Yeah, no, we got to hang out on stream. It was a lot of fun. But I was gonna upload that footage, but it was like 2.5 hours long. So I was like, let's get a more streamlined conversation about Incarnate, where we can bounce questions back and forth and really talk about kind of what's going on. So that's cool. It's been fun to get the perspective from a developer standpoint of kind of the concerns and what's on your mind, because I see it mainly 99% of the time from the player's perspective.
Right.
So yeah, it was cool to sit down with you for a little bit. So yeah, I'll link to that stuff down below, and other than that, we'll be in touch, and I appreciate you stopping by and talking to us about Incarnate.
Yeah, man, you've got your key, right? You're getting in there.
I'm gonna dive in and play it, and I'll do a spicy review for you.
Hopefully it's spicy in the positive way and not in the like, this guy came on and he told us all this thing and it was garbage. Like, I mean, and if that's what it is, it is what it is what it is. You say it the way you say it. Don't, we're not going to stop anybody from saying what they think. So yeah, it was like you said, it was awesome to hang out with you on stream. It was so cool because we got to do it right at the end of the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
so cool of you to let us hang out and do our like shameless self promotion.
Hey, it ended up working out. It went really well. I was happy that you hit your goal, and no, I mean, so far from what I'm seeing, you guys are doing all the right things so far, and listening to the community and interacting with gamers. And so yeah, I think I haven't played it yet, but I think you're checking all the right boxes so far. So I'm excited to kind of see what comes of it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, really appreciate you having me hang out, and hope we can do it again.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks. Have a good one.
Cheers, man. You too.
All right, that's going to do it for this one. Huge shout out to Sham for joining me. I had a lot of fun sitting down and getting the developer's perspective on producing a game like Incarnate. So make sure and check out the links down below. I will link to that channel that Hell Hades is running covering Incarnate, and I will also link to the Discord server so that you can chat about Incarnate if you are interested in checking more of that stuff out. So that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.